So we're talking about free training when you buy a business. That's right, free training when you buy a business. Can't get better than that. And that training comes from the person most qualified to teach you about that particular business. And that, of course, is the outgoing owner. So how do you get free training from the outgoing owner for the business that you're about to buy? Well, I had a client of mine who asked the same question. His name was Dave. He was buying an engineering business and he wanted free training from the owner, and he went about it all the wrong way. He just pretty much did everything wrong, didn't get the training he wanted, and of course, consequently, he struggled. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how you get free training from the owner of the business who is selling the business to you, and how you get that the right way. So in the almost 20 years that I've been selling businesses, there is a right way and a wrong way to get the most out of the outgoing owner, to get the most amount of information, the most amount of training. The better you do that, the easier it is to run your new business, the more likely that you're going to be successful running the new business. So let's talk about how that works. Would you work for free? Well, I certainly wouldn't. So why is it that buyers of a business expect the outgoing owner of that business to stay on for an extended period and work for free at no extra cost? Now, most business owners, they're happy to do a transition. They're happy to do some form of handover, but it is for a limited period. It's not indefinitely, and most of the time, it's not for zero cost. Although there is a portion that is at zero cost, and I will explain how that works in a minute. So you can't expect an owner to work for an indefinite period and not be remunerated. You wouldn't do it, I wouldn't do it, so you can't expect the outgoing owner to do it. Now, sellers do accept they have to stay on in the business, and they do accept they have to help the training, but not for an indefinite period of time, and certainly not for free. And I wonder why buyers expect them to do that. Buyers sometimes expect the outgoing owner to stay on as an employee for an indefinite period of time. But why would they do that? Why would they sell the business and then stay on as an employee? Doesn't make really any sense, does it? Most buyers have other things they want to do. They either want to retire, maybe they want to move on, maybe they're just looking to cash out for capital gains, or they have different ideas, different plans, change of health, change of circumstances. There are a whole raft of reasons why owners sell a really good and really profitable business. And if they're choosing to sell that business, then the likelihood of them wanting to stay on as an employee is not very high. Yes, it does happen. I know it happens, but it doesn't happen very often. So I'll talk about Dave in a minute. Remember, he bought the engineering business. Now, he wanted the vendor to stay on for, well, an almost indefinite period of time, and he didn't want to pay him. And he didn't quite understand why the vendor, why the seller of the business didn't want to do that. So perhaps we should talk about generally vendor's assistance, how it works, and what the parameters are for a vendor's assist, vendor's training period. So the standard vendor's help, if you like, the standard vendor's assist period is normally around about, not always, but around about a billing cycle. So that might be 4 or 5 weeks. And they're there to teach the buyer, to teach the new owner of the business how to run the business. They're there to show them what to do, show them how they do it, and generally give them guidance on the running of their business. Now, that's normally enough for the buyer to get its feet under the table and be comfortable and be happy with it. But what you have to remember is they're not an unpaid worker. They're not there to work in the business. What they're there to do is to show you, the new buyer, how to operate the business. So you can't arrive first day, look at the owner and go, get over there and sweep the floor and do this and do that and do that. He's not there to do that. He'll show you how to sweep the floor if you need to know, but he's not there to do that, or she's not there to do that. That owner, she is there, or he is there to show you how to run the business. That's all. Okay, so what happens if you want the seller to actually work in the business with you? Well, this is what happens. So if the buyer wants the seller to stay on for an extended period of time, they should be offering a consulting agreement or a contracting agreement. So you do an employment contract, a contracting agreement, whatever you want to call it, and that sets out hours, terms, remuneration, obviously, and how you want and what you want that owner to do. So you're effectively employing the owner, but as a contractor. Now, that's if you want them to work in the business. Now, generally speaking, what you would do is you would have a transition period for training, and then that contracting period would start. However, if you want the owner to work from day one as a contractor, then that contracting period should start pretty much when you buy the business. Now, by doing that, you clearly define what the parameters are that the owner, the seller, has to adhere to, and two, as an employee, as an employer, as a buyer, you're defining what you need from the owner. Now, that contractual arrangement should be organised during the due diligence period at the very latest, or included in the sale and purchase agreement when you make an offer on the business. Now, if you include it in the sale and purchase agreement, that makes it very, very clear to the seller of the business that if he sells or she sells the business to you, to that buyer, these are the terms and conditions. So they're selling it to you on the basis that they know that they're being employed at a fixed term for a period. Now, that might be 3 months or 6 months, whatever the remuneration is. Now, the word of warning about that is some sellers get a little bit greedy and they'll go, oh, I'm worth X amount of dollars an hour. That may be true, but that's not necessarily what they're going to get. They should be paid a fair contractual rate for the job they're doing. So what you do is you look around the market and you decide what someone would be paid for doing that work, and that's the remuneration that you pay the seller. Now, to give you an example, back to Dave and his engineering business, he was paying his engineers $50, $60 and $70 an hour, depending on their experience and what they were doing. So you would expect the owner of that business to get that top rate. Whatever he's paying his top guy to do whatever it is he's doing, if that's what you want the owner to do, that's how you should be remunerating the owner. It's also important to differentiate, is it a short-term contracting role? Is it a long-term employment role? So that's set out in writing at the very beginning, and then there can be no dispute, no arguments. The seller becomes an employee of the business and is subject to the rules and regulations around being an employee or a contractor or however that's structured. So let's get back to Dave. Now, Dave, he was a bit tight, obviously, probably squeaked when he walked. But anyway, he didn't want to pay the outgoing owner. He decided that he was spending all this money, it was a fairly sizable business, and he was spending all this money, and the owner should be helping him and working for him to make him successful in the business, just because he was buying the business, just because he was paying a lot of money. So what happened with Dave was he got a little bit confused. He got a little bit confused with the terminology and how things were working. Yes, he was buying the business. That's true. And he was buying a business with goodwill. He was buying a business with customers and processes and clients and contracts and all that sort of thing. That's fine. All of those were being handed over. The seller was happy to make sure all of that was handed over properly. But what he wasn't buying was the seller's time. He wasn't buying the rights to use the seller for free for an indefinite period of time. It just doesn't work like that. Okay, so what happened to Dave? Well, he bought the business, took over. The seller, he helped Dave, train him up, showed him what to do. And at the end of his assistance, he had generously given him 6 weeks assistance as part of the sale package, or 6 weeks of training. And at the end of that, he said, thanks, Dave. I'm out of here. Cheers. Good luck. Dave goes, well, hang on a minute. I've got a major contract coming up in the next month or so. I need your help to help me secure the contract. I need you to put a package together for me, go and see the contract doors with me and help me get that contract. Now, the owner said, well, yes, I can do that, but it will cost you. I will contract back to you at these rates and we'll produce a plan and we'll go and pitch for the contract. Now, Dave goes, no, you should be doing that as part of the sale. I don't want your help. So what was the result? Of course, Dave didn't get the contract. So the business was damaged because Dave didn't want to pay the extra money, didn't want to pay the owner contracting fee. He failed to get the contract. So had he used the owner as a consultant, as a contractor, however, he would have got that large order, that large contract, and the business would have thrived. Now, as it happened, Dave learned his lesson from that, and he is now employing the owner who's semi-retired, and he's employing them on a job-by-job, contract-by-contract basis. and they're doing well. So Dave did learn, but it's a very important lesson that you shouldn't be too tight at the very beginning. You need to get that information, that extra information, out of the seller and use them if you can to help you secure the business going forward. Yes, they'll train you for nothing, but if you want them to work in the business, you're going to have to pay them. Okay, so that was Dave all sorted. But at least he didn't fall foul of the classic stolen cash scam when you buy a business. What am I talking about? Have a look at that video up there. That'll tell you all about the stolen cash scam and how you can avoid it when you buy a business. I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching. See you later.